Life can unravel in the most unexpected ways. I was reminded of this one cold evening when everything I thought I knew about my marriage came crashing down around me. It all began at a high-profile charity gala, an event I hadn't planned on attending but ended up going to at the insistence of my close friend, Brandon. "Come on, Michael, you've been cooped up way too long," Brandon told me. "It'll be good for you, man. You need to get out more, mingle a bit." So I went dressing in my only decent tux and showing up at the lavish ballroom, uncertain of what the night would bring. Much to my surprise, I ended up making a dramatic entrance, though not by my choice, on the arm of a striking woman named Lauren. She was tall with a cascade of auburn hair and a presence that demanded attention. We'd only recently met through a mutual acquaintance, but something about her spirited confidence intrigued me. When she offered to be my companion for the gala, I hesitated but agreed, figuring a friendly face at my side might keep the evening from feeling so stiff. The moment we stepped into the ballroom, heads turned. It wasn't me. They were staring at Lauren. She wore a dress that managed to be both refined and slightly daring, and as we moved through the crowd, people greeted her with polite curiosity. I introduced her to a few of my colleagues, we sipped champagne, and for a short while I managed to forget the stress piling up in my life. That is, until my gaze landed on Nicole, my wife. She was standing across the room in a shimmering blue gown, chatting with several people from my company. The instant she saw me, her face paled like she'd seen a ghost. I hadn't told her I'd be here, and clearly she never expected I'd show up with someone like Lauren. Nicole excused herself from her group and marched over, eyes locked on Lauren with an expression of open hostility. Without even glancing in my direction, Nicole spat at Lauren. "How can you sleep with that man? He's weak in bed, a loser in life." The entire room went quiet, heads swinging our way. I felt my stomach twist, shame mixing with outrage at her words. But Lauren didn't even blink. She took one cool look at Nicole, lifted her chin, and in a calm but forceful tone said, "Security? Who let this cheap woman in here?" A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Within seconds, 2 security guards approached. Nicole's face flamed red, both embarrassed and furious. She tried to speak, but Lauren pressed on. "Next time you want to insult someone," she added icily, "make sure you're not standing on shaky ground yourself." Nicole opened her mouth to retort, but before she could speak, Brandon appeared at my side. "Nicole," he said firmly, "it's time for you to leave." Security escorted her out. She threw one last sneer over her shoulder, shouting at me, "You'll regret this, you hear me? You'll regret it." Then she was gone, leaving behind a flurry of shocked whispers among the guests. I turned to Lauren, who had become the center of attention. She gave me a small shrug. "That was dramatic," she noted. The night ended in a blur of murmured apologies to the bystanders, but I couldn't help feeling a certain grim satisfaction that Nicole's web of lies was on the verge of unraveling. The next morning, my phone blew up with texts and calls from Nicole. Her messages swung between pleading for forgiveness and threatening revenge. It was a pattern I recognized, manipulative behavior that kept me on edge for far too long. This time, though, I'd had enough. I was ready to protect myself. While sipping coffee, I saw a text from Brandon. "Brandon, hey man, free for lunch? We need to talk about last night." I figured he'd uncovered more about Nicole's recent antics, so I agreed to meet him at our usual bistro. Brandon was already seated in a corner booth by the time I arrived, his face set in a serious expression. "Michael, I've got news, and it's not pretty," he said once I sat down. "Nicole's been lying about a lot more than just her affair." My stomach churned. "What do you mean?" Brandon explained that Nicole had been badmouthing me all over town, trying to pose as a victim. Even more disturbing, she'd been sabotaging my reputation at work. But that wasn't all. She'd also been embezzling money from our joint account. I tensed. "Embezzling how?" "We share that account. I keep an eye on it, but not too closely, I guess. Some friend of mine at the bank noticed weird transfers. We dug deeper, and yeah, she'd been funneling funds into another account for months." I sat there, fists clenched, heart pounding with anger and betrayal. I can't believe this. I trusted her. Brandon placed a hand on my shoulder. "Listen, you gotta act fast. I've spoken to a lawyer on your behalf. You should freeze those accounts and get all the evidence. It's gonna get messy." I nodded, grateful for his unwavering support. "Thank you, Brandon. I'll do what needs to be done." That afternoon, I phoned the bank, froze the accounts, and scheduled a meeting with the attorney Brandon recommended. I spent hours sifting through documents, old statements, emails, determined not to let Nicole walk away with everything I'd worked for. That evening, Nicole stormed into the house, fury etched across her face. She waved a paper under my nose, the notice from the bank about the frozen account. "What the hell is this?" she shouted. "I'm protecting myself," I replied, doing my best to remain calm. "You've lied, cheated, and stolen from me. It ends now." She laughed a harsh, bitter laugh. "You think you can cut me off like that? I'll ruin you. I'll take everything." Good luck, I said, voice firm. I've spoken to a lawyer. You won't get away with this. She narrowed her eyes. You think you're so smart. You'll regret this. You have no clue what I'm capable of. She stormed out, slamming the door. Strangely, I felt relief, like a weight lifting off my shoulders. At least now the battle lines were clearly drawn. I was done being her victim. Gad the Orang EVIDNC days became a whirl of legal meetings, visits to the bank, and sleepless nights. Brandon remained my rock. He came over after work to help me sift through piles of financial statements and digital receipts. The lawyer, Heather, was relentless, building a strong case of fraud against Nicole. One afternoon, while digging through boxes of old documents in the attic, I stumbled on a collection of letters. They were from a man named Ryan describing passionate nights he'd spent with Nicole. The dates suggested this had been going on for years, long before I suspected a thing. Anger flared as I realized she'd been betraying me repeatedly. That night, I confronted Nicole. I called her and demanded she come pick up whatever was left of her stuff. We need to talk, I said, doing my best to keep my voice steady. She showed up, scowling as she walked in. Well, she snapped, arms folded. What now? Wordlessly, I held up the incriminating letters from Ryan. How long have you been lying to me? How many other men were there, Nicole? Her eyes widened, but only for a split second before she shrugged. Does it matter? We're over. Just give me my share, and I'm gone. My share? I laughed bitterly. After everything you've stolen, you think you deserve more? This ends now. I've got all the evidence I need. She tried to sneer, but there was an edge of uncertainty in her eyes. You'll regret this, Michael. You will. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Lauren, the woman from the gallows, along with 2 police officers. Nicole looked alarmed. Is everything all right here? Asked one officer, glancing between Nicole and me. Actually, officer, I said calmly, I'd like to file a report. My wife's been embezzling money from our joint account. I have proof. Nicole's face turned white. She kissed, you can't prove anything, but I knew it was bluster. I handed the officers a folder containing all the evidence Brandon and I had gathered. Lauren stepped forward, looking at Nicole with a steely gaze. It's time you leave, Nicole. The police escorted Nicole out, though she spewed a barrage of threats. This isn't over. I promise. You'll regret it. As the door closed behind her, I felt a strange calm settle over me. Thank you, I said to Lauren. She gave me a small smile. You did the right thing. Now it's time to rebuild. Over the following weeks, I attended endless court sessions providing evidence of Nicole's fraudulent transactions. My attorney, Heather, was razor-sharp, presenting each piece of proof systematically. Nicole tried to play the victim, claiming she'd only taken what was rightfully hers and that I was the cheating husband. Her flimsy accusations fell apart under scrutiny. One day, in the midst of these proceedings, I was sorting more files when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Danielle. We need to talk. It's about Nicole. I'm her sister. Sister? I never knew Nicole had a sister. Confused yet curious, I agreed to meet Danielle at a local cafe. She arrived looking nervous. Michael, thanks for seeing me. I'm Danielle. I only heard about your situation recently. My sister cut ties with me years ago. I frowned. You're telling me you and Nicole have been estranged? Danielle nodded. Yes. She never mentioned me to you, right? Well, that's typical. She's built her life on lies. I want to help you by sharing everything I know about her past, her previous marriages, cons, and more. She's hurt so many people. I'm sorry you're going through this. Over the next hour, Danielle unveiled the story of a woman I barely recognized. Nicole had been married at least twice before, leaving each husband financially and emotionally wrecked. She changed her name, moved states, and repeated the cycle. I felt nauseated realizing the extent of Nicole's deceit. After that meeting, I shared the news with Brandon and Lauren, who were both outraged. We have to expose her fully, Brandon insisted. Lauren agreed. She can't keep destroying lives. We compiled Danielle's testimonies into our case. When the evidence was presented in court, Nicole's manipulations were laid bare. The judge, appalled by her serial deceit, ruled even more harshly against her. The final verdict made her liable for large restitution payments, and she received probation along with mandatory community service. For once, she couldn't slip away unscathed. Walking out of the courthouse, Danielle offered me a small smile. I'm truly sorry about everything. I wish Nicole could change, but she never does. I thanked her, grateful she stepped forward. Better now than never. Maybe this will stop her from hurting anyone else. I began breathing easier. Nicole was out of my life, her cons exposed. I turned my focus to my job and spending more time with good people like Brandon and Lauren. My bond with Lauren in particular grew stronger. Her fierce loyalty and kindness had helped me survive some of my darkest days. One afternoon, Lauren and I were having coffee when my phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering. "Hello," I said. "Michael, it's Ryan," came the reply, the same man from the old letters. "We need to talk about Nicole. I have information you need." My gut twisted. "Ryan, what is it?" He explained that Nicole had been part of a larger fraud scheme targeting multiple people. I tried warning others, but she threatened me. "Now that she's been exposed, I think you and I can work together to ensure she faces all possible consequences." Wearily, I agreed to meet him. Over the next few weeks, Ryan and I, along with Brandon, uncovered more of Nicole's wrongdoing. We found additional victims. Our attorney, Heather, was stunned by the scope of it. We reopened the case, pushing for criminal charges. This time, Nicole faced serious jail time. At the trial, she tried every trick, feigning illness, blaming her tragic childhood, accusing me of fabricating evidence. But with Ryan's testimony, plus the records from Danielle, Nicole's lies crumbled. The judge found her guilty on multiple counts of fraud, sentencing her to years in prison. When the verdict was read, Nicole shot me a venomous glare and hissed, "You'll regret this." But her words rang hollow. Her destructive reign was finally ending. A brighter path. With Nicole behind bars, I felt a massive weight lift. I focused on forging a new life. My emotional scars ran deep, but I wasn't alone. Brandon remained my steadfast friend, and Lauren was my constant source of comfort and hope. We began spending more time together. Quiet dinners, walks in the park. Gradually, our friendship blossomed into something deeper. One moonlit evening, as we strolled by the waterfront, Lauren paused, turning to me with a soft smile. "Michael, how do you see your future?" she asked. I shook her hand, feeling my heart flutter in a way I hadn't felt in years. "I see possibility," I answered. "A new beginning." She leaned in, resting her head on my shoulder. "I feel the same." In the months that followed, I resigned from my old job to start a small business, something I'd always dreamed of, a sustainable design firm. Brandon, who had marketing expertise, jumped in to help me build a brand. Lauren was a natural at networking, connecting me with potential clients. The business flourished, and so did our relationships. Brandon found love in an environmental researcher named Emily, while Ryan moved on from his past entanglement with Nicole and found peace traveling the country doing freelance consulting. Lauren and I grew inseparable. Her unwavering faith in me helped banish the last echoes of Nicole's betrayal. Then came a day that changed everything once more. Over a cozy dinner at home, Lauren touched my arm, a shy glow in her eyes. "I have news," she said, voice trembling with excitement. "I'm pregnant." The world seemed to tilt, but this time in the best possible way. I pulled her into my arms, tears stinging my eyes. "Are you serious? That's amazing." Her laughter filled the room. "We're going to be parents." We braced for the next chapter, parenthood. Our little one arrived on a sunny morning, a baby girl with big bright eyes that resembled her mother's. We named her Lily. Holding Lily in my arms for the first time, I felt a swell of joy so overwhelming that the memory of Nicole's treachery felt like a distant bad dream. But life, unpredictable as ever, had one last curveball. A year into Lily's life, I received word that Nicole from prison was filing an appeal, claiming she'd been unfairly tried and that I had set her up. The old dread resurfaced, though Lauren's calm presence kept me anchored. When the appeal date arrived, we faced Nicole again in court. She looked thinner, yet her eyes still burned with malice. She hurled baseless accusations, saying I'd framed her. Her new evidence was laughably forged. The judge, unimpressed, upheld her sentence. As they led Nicole away, she spat, "You'll regret this, Michael." "You will." I felt a pang of pity mixed with relief. She might never change, forever lost in her web of deceit. But I wouldn't let her shadow consume my life again. In the aftermath, Lauren, Lily, and I grew into a contented family. Brandon and Emily became regular fixtures in our home, their laughter echoing off the walls. Ryan, occasionally in town, dropped by to share travel stories. Each day felt like a testament to resilience, the triumphant forging of a new path after heartbreak. My design firm continued thriving, and we expanded to a larger office. I found purpose not only in creating sustainable spaces, but also in sponsoring programs that help battered individuals find stable housing. My experiences with Nicole's manipulation inspired me to offer support to others in crisis. On Lily's second birthday, we hosted a small celebration in our backyard. Surrounded by loved ones, we lit candles on her little cake, her wide eyes dancing with excitement. As she blew them out with Lauren's help, I caught Brandon's grin and felt a wave of gratitude. When the festivities waned and Lily toddled around handing out slices of cake, I slipped an arm around Lauren's waist. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I murmured, "Thank you for standing by me, for believing in me, despite everything." She smiled, eyes shimmering. "We all have scars, Michael, but scars just show where we've been, not where we're going." Those words embodied our journey, We traversed betrayal, confronted a cunning manipulator, and chosen to love again, forging a stronger bond. Looking at Lauren, I knew that while I might sometimes recall the pain Nicole caused, I'd never regret the decision to embrace a second chance at happiness. From the hush of that gala's scandalous confrontation to a quiet night in our backyard with our beautiful daughter, the path had been anything but straight. Yet each twist led me here, to a life rich with genuine love, loyal friends, and the simple joy of a family made whole by hope and perseverance. That's my story. How a swirl of betrayal turned into a testament of resilience. Nicole's final threat echoes faintly, but it holds no real power anymore. I have chosen to live, love, and move forward unafraid, flanked by those who truly care. And in this new season of life, a season of quiet contentment and bright tomorrows, I can only smile, grateful for the second chance that once felt so impossible.